Karasu and Hiori. Let's see just how you two cook. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here from Fact. I do to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. Say hello, Fact. I mean, you know what time it is, right? It's peak log time, aka peak every week. So you know I gotta breathe right. But I'm very intrigued and excited. Hiori yo cooking at all, especially I guess it makes sense somewhat in the well, not somewhat, it makes sense a lot in the Friends game for this whole battle of logic and ideals, and basically the idea of suitable destiny and second best. It makes sense that Hiori, someone who has been so heavily steeped in logic that even sort of pulled in Toshi and gave up on striking just to be a midfielder, because ultimately that was the more logical thing to do, right? Ultimately it makes sense that he and Karasu, two characters already established to be heavily steeped in logic and rational reasoning, would be the ones to sort of hear Hugo's philosophy and double down on it, essentially. But the interesting thing is, Hiori did give up on striking. So I'm interested to see how these two are going to take their essential existences, right? As the probably... It's weird, though, because Karasu and Isagi, despite having a very well-established dynamic, don't actually, play together at all. Right? Right? Because they played against Karasu. Because in third selection, Isagi never encountered him in second selection. They played together-ish. No, they played together in the U20 match, and obviously they played together in the Nigeria game. So they played together a little bit. But very specifically, it's interesting to see now that Hiori is no longer being, essentially Karasu has made him king, right? Going with the idea of the kingmaker versus the king. Hiori had decided to become a kingmaker, very akin to, say, and naturally also Kaiser and even Hugo. But now he's being forced into the position of king, no longer supporting a striker like Isagi Yoichi, or Rini Toshi, or Shiro Ryusei, or Baro Shohei, or heck, even Shigiri Hiyoma. Why did I say Ryoma? That's fire. Wrong game, wrong series, wrong genre, wrong media. But regardless, he's not supporting a striker now. He is the striker. So I'm very interested. Obviously, the whole point of Blue Lock is that anyone can score. So Hiori probably still does have the striking ability. But considering this is the whole idea of hey, Hiori kind of buried that inside of himself, I'm interested to see if it's going to work, especially against France of all teams. So let's take a look at chapter 336. Crow and why do Loki? Actually. Crow and eyes. Let's see. He sent it over to the left side. All right, let's see. Let's use my Sharingan, get a read of the field real quick. We have this guy's name I forget. We have Hugo and Bats. With the really stern looking face on Karasu himself. Then Hugo holding back Rin, which makes sense. And then Hiori seemingly unguarded. Let's take a look. The he in Hiori means ice. Okay. I see it. It's a girl. Interesting, though. I guess now that, ironically, now that's being mentioned, I guess Hiori never really did get a specific ego design. Now that I think about it, which is crazy considering how much of a focal point he is in Ubers. But, he didn't get a thing, right? He has the puzzle pieces. Rin has malice, bro. Bro's genuinely Calamity Gammon. Gammon? Why am I mixing up genres and not being able to speak? But Rin is literally Calamity Ganon with the whole, destructive malice aura thing. Shido obviously has his draconic theming. Baro has his lion theming. And plus electricity, strangely enough, sparking lion. Typically lions are portrayed with flames most often because, the flowing mane kind of resembles fire. At least that's what's typically associated with. But Baro actually is, a sparking lion typically. Then who else am I thinking of? Obviously Bachira is associated with bees, but we also know that literally comes from, his name, which also has something to, Bachira, something to do with insects / bees. Chigiri has the whole panther. Even Zantetsu, a character as, I'd say, if I'm putting Zantetsu in, an important tier list, even with episode 19, he's probably, a solid, highest B tier character. He has this whole thing with, the bullet train, and how that's kind of his aura and stuff like that, how he's consistently associated. But Hiori, despite being a focal point for an entire game, I don't think he's had a general, a thing. Heck, he gave Charles one. He essentially gave Charles a Souls, boss, which, no! Of all the panels to consistently haunt Blue Lock in terms of, this will always be brought up when people are asking what on earth Blue Lock is about, that Hiori panel, where he gave Charles that massive Dark Souls creature, that's the one that's always popping up. Which is hilarious, because that's so far from being animated, bro. Like, well, I mean, it could be animated in the next season. It could be. It could be. Season 2 ends with the start of the season. So, like, it may be animated, but still, nowhere near animated. But that is one of the manga panels that does sort of haunt the beyond Blue Lock narrative in terms of like how certain things appear or interpreted or wondering about what the manga is about. But Hiori's never had one. He's given it out. He's borne witness to it. So I'm interested to see how his manifestation of ice reflects, considering we've literally seen Karasu fuse with his crow. Let's take a look. The ball goes to Yo Hiori. Yo, I do wonder what his relationship with his parents is like currently. Like, I highly doubt he told them anything that what he feels. But I wonder now, just considering the whole point of his Uber's arc was like, maybe I shouldn't do this. But no, that was just giving up on soccer in general, not specifically like being a striker. So I don't know. We'll see. I do like that though. I love that he's in motion and then instantaneously the metavision flicks on. I love it. I know it's not like actually happening in universe, but I do love the whole Sharingan-esque transition or the essentially the Dojutsu-esque transition where a character will be like in base and then a panel will pass so they'll blink. Like this would be the only thing that would make this even cooler if there was like a middle panel in between these two where like Hiori's eyes are open, they close, and then they pop out with metavision. And now he's using it. So he's going all out. Let's take a look. Well, not all out. He doesn't have reflex on. He doesn't have the reflex sclera or the flow eyes. He just has the flames circling around him. Let's see. I was thinking the same thing, Karasu. The attacking patterns that start with Isaki-kun are dead in the water. So somebody's got to create a new one. Oh. Well, yeah, I thought that was, for some reason, my brain did not register that was Hiori. I thought it was like Hiori or something. Let's see. Right now, we're the only ones that can. That is a very. But you know what? I guess it makes sense. I think about it. Hold on. Let me take a sippy whippy. Stay hydrated, folks. Nothing better than hydration. Have you drank water today? Drink some water today. But, very specifically, it is interesting that these two are the only two that can. And very specifically, they're the only two that can, not necessarily because of the fact that they are exceptional geniuses or anything, but quite the opposite. These two are monsters in their own right, but specifically because they can look at the game in a way that a genius... I'm not saying a genius can't, right? Like, obviously, we've seen Rin. Rin is a balance between an analytical monster and also, you know, the typical genius archetype. Once again, when I talk about, like, the line between toddlers and geniuses is kind of, like... it's like spaghetti, bro. Like, it's barely a line. But, that aside, geniuses have sort of been adapted to by friends, right? Every genius has gotten somebody. Batra has gotten someone who can keep pace with him and match his dribble. We've had Chigiri have a person who can keep up with him. We have Rin even being locked down by Hugo specifically. Like we have all these different geniuses locked down. And the main talented learner, the core talented learner of Blue Lock, even if he does have genius tendencies, once again, that line is a spaghetti noodle. A wet spaghetti noodle, no, that's not a firm one. But regardless, since the main talented learner is locked down, it is only the people who can look at the game objectively with this broader scope, other metavision users on offense, which is literally in this case Karasu and Hiori, who can like look at the game, how the game would be played, how the game is played based on their plays, how France would then respond to those plays, and then think of a move beyond that. It's the idea of I know what you're gonna do, or no, I know that you know what I'm gonna do, so I'm gonna do what I'm gonna take the knowledge that I know that you know that I know what I'm gonna do to do something different that you wouldn't even expect, because I wouldn't do that typically because I don't expect it. Is that multiple layers of absurdity that only talented learners or only metavision users of Karasu and Hiori's ilk can reach and presumably overcome France with. But we'll see if it can actually work, considering we know France also has its own talented learners, which is all based around where they can probably do the whole I know what you know that I know that you know that I know that you know. You gotta go layers into layers into layers of it. What's it? He's free! Somebody cover him! But that does make sense though. Blue Lock is built on the philosophy that anyone can score. So even if Hiori isn't one of their typical strikers, yeah, the possibility of him scoring is still not. It's not worth leaving him open. Let's see. On it. Too slow. I'll cut pat. Yo, Hiori, fry up that. Yo. And I'm not talking about Hiori, but yo, shout out to Hiori finally being allowed to do something, bro. Man, like sure, it did take a hot minute. He was basically radio silent throughout the entire, I'd say like I wouldn't even say back half, back 3/4. He already had like one solid moment in PXG. Then he disappeared off the map for the rest of that game, basically. And then he didn't do anything in Nigeria other than miss. But I am glad that he's getting something in the second game, so we can finally meet all the other Hiori fans out there. There are a couple of us, not as many as other people's fan bases, but still, there are a couple other Hiori fans out there who have been like, we've been, I can't even say fighting. We've just been kind of like blocking the whole like Hiori is a plot device allegations. Like he was literally just there to make Usagi win in Ubers and nothing else. And it was looking like that because he was really allowed to do anything else. It was crazy. But now he's at least seemingly getting a little bit more crack. Let's take a look. Too slow. I'll cut past. Aim for shot. Oh, okay. So even if he in that moment had sort of I saw the Mikage Corporation back here. But even if for the moment he had given up on being a striker, he still does. He has those instincts. And to be fair, that was how it was in Nigeria too. He's still taking shots. But it is very interesting, right? That idea that there is the balance between the Hiori that nearly given up on soccer and decided to become a kingmaker, and the Hiori who still understands sort of in that like broad scheme, either suitable destiny or second best, or what Isagi's whole idea is like, I will become a machine that's made for scoring goals. Just as often as the kingmaker can create kings, occasionally they must be a king themselves. And Hiori still sees the opportunities for that and will go for them. But clearly in this instance, he's like, not around here, partner. Not around here. And to be fair, he is literally getting double teamed right now. So I don't blame him. Right now, he technically doesn't have a shot course, even with his lefty. Let's take a look. No. Actually, I think about it. It's crazy that both Hiori and Kunigami have lefty shots. Or at least like that's their primary kicking foot. Now I think about it. I never thought about that correlation until this instant. Let's see. No, I don't have a course. Okay, so he instantly gives it back to Karasu. All right. I guess like the main issue is now, if they can lock them down, right? Then what is the insanity that they're gonna need to tap into to actually get a goal off on France? Because I guess the main issue, right? And this is something where it isn't always true in certain things, but it's sort of, if you prepare for the best, you can handle what isn't the best, right? Like, in fighting game terms, if you have, like, a solid matchup against a top-tier character, there are those weirdly off-meta picks that do, like, just play a kind of different game that you still need to worry about and learn, even if they aren't top-tier in the traditional sense. For my Guilty Gear players out there, think of, like, Axel and how weird he is and how he takes like he's a weird matchup check in Guilty Gear. Think of essentially your Majin Boos or your Nappas for my Dragon Ball FighterZ players out there. And I say Luigi, but Luigi he's kind of a meta monster. But essentially any of the weird off-brand characters in Smash Bros that play a completely different game, like your heroes, right? Where they just don't really play the same game. Outside of those couple, typically if you can beat the top tier and you can beat meta, you're typically good against everything else. And that's clearly the case for here with France, right? Where sure, they didn't specifically prepare for Karasu and Hiori to go absolutely buku bonkers and have a mentality change, but on the striker side of things, they're ready for Rin. And like if they're ready for Rin, they won't be ready for everything, dog. Like, so it's gonna be interesting to see how they deal with this. Another side pass. What does that say? Murd? I'm assuming that probably means some sort of curse in another language. Let's see. But this through off the defensive line. Yeah, so you can get the schmicks of them. You get the schmicks of them. And that is true, right? There's still the idea of, even if you are prepared for the best, sometimes you can still be hit. I think that is the example, right? You can never prepare for every eventuality, and even if you do, sometimes you won't be able to react to the eventuality that you prepared for in that same moment, right? Like, I mentioned it before all the time in specifically fighters, but sometimes I just get hit in the face, man. Sometimes, even though knowing, okay, I've just been hit by a raw level 3. My boy always goes for a low. Sometimes I just don't block. Sometimes I mash. I don't know what it is. It's the creatures in my head. Like, he won't get the Oki right. Yeah, I know if I mash right, and I've mashed right before, sometimes I take the character right off, right? But you know, just as many times as I've taken a character, your boy gets exposed. So it does happen here where, even if you are prepared, you know, you can get caught off guard. Darn, Bats is a brick wall, bro. Karasu has no, like, look at that. Not even a single motion line. Beyond Karasu patting his chest, bro. That man is beefy. What's it? Shoot now, Karasu. Ooh, Karasu scoring? That could be interesting. But will he? He's dedicated to being world's number 2. Honestly, I don't see a Hugo scoring in this game. He's just facilitating. Let's see. Oh. Okay. So he doesn't. This is interesting. Okay, let's see. Not me, you idiot. Why won't you shoot your... I can't, bro. Why won't you shoot, you major fiend? I know your talent as a striker best of all, because we were both on the same youth team. Your conflicted feelings about soccer, your resignation, and how much you changed here in Blue Lock. But like, that is, and it once again it goes to the idea of, like, the dangers, I suppose, of falling down the ultra, like, I'm thinking of a scene from Leverage in particular, right? Where, or not even a scene, like a whole episode. I think it's in season 3. Yeah, I think it's season 3. No, it may be season 4. It may be season 4. I think it is season 4 because it's after the San Lorenzo job. But there's a whole episode which is based around, like, the idea of the moonwalking bear, right? And you're like, what? But it's what I think in the episode the proper name for it is like unintentional blindness. It's where you are so focused on one thing, you're so tunnel vision on a certain idea, and you're trying to uphold that so hard, you miss the really obvious thing. like sometimes it's like it's a whole idea of, like, you probably need to address the elephant in the room, even if you don't want to. It's big there and glaring, but you shouldn't do that. Maybe in this case, this is Karasu getting a little bit too deep into the idea of suitable destiny, right? Maybe he could have scored here. Who knows? We'll see with the chapter. But the idea that he's sort of giving up that possibility to score because of the ideals he has of another striker, because he's so focused on being world's number 2, when he possibly could use his abilities right now as a striker to score, that's dangerous. That's a possibility that could end up backfiring. So once again, the main philosophy of Blue Lock is that if someone has the ball at their feet on Blue Lock, there's a non-zero chance they could score. Don't sleep on Nico. We may get a Nico. Okay, very unlikely, but still, we could get a Nico goal. Don't sleep. It's possible. It's possible. We could get a Nanase goal. Gosh darn it. That's the whole point of Blue Lock, right? Anyone can score. But Karasu, by seemingly delving himself, digging his fingers into this second best idea, it's possibly backfiring on him where he's not taking an opportunity because he's like, oh, well, this guy's so good. From what I've seen, from what I know. But Karasu, you must be willing to become unpredictable. You may miss the moonwalking bear. Let's see. I've been watching all along, so I should know. Oh, okay. So he gives it up. Hold on, let me take another sip. I don't know why. I recorded one review before this. I don't know why your boy's so dehydrated. I think it's because I actually have water this time, so I'm like, oh, let me take a sip. Make sure you drink your water, folks. Let's see. Hydration. Let's see. I've been watching all along, so I should know. Yep, and Hiori gets the ball back. All right. He passed back to me? Karasu. I mean, for my Hiori shippers out there, I know y'all are feeding over this. Let's see. That's why I can take this chance on you, because you're extraordinary shooting talent. Interesting. That, I mean, it is. But it's funny though. It's funny. Instead of that actually, I think if there's gonna be one thing to be learned from this game, or possibly even a possible rematch of Fence. If you think Japan's gonna lose the U20, then this could definitely be a thing that they could take from this. They need to find a balance between suitability and egoism. Technically, egoism is meant to already sort of find the balance between suitability and egoism, right? You're supposed to have that reproducible goal formula, right? That's the overarching idea of, like, hey, yeah, cool, the miracle one-off goals are really, really nice, but you should have a formula that you can sort of always generate goals with. So technically, suitable destiny, or the logical theorems of, like, scoring goals and the way the field works, that's already been built into Blue Lock. But now it's the idea of you need to be able to sort of you need to be able to work with logic, yet also work with rationality or irrationality, right? Because it is sometimes the most irrational thing that can be done in a moment that is actually the most successful. Oh, I can speak from experience many times in my life in all different aspects, not just in the physical world, but in, like, the interaction world, even in, like, the interpersonal world, where sometimes doing the most irrational thing in a moment, whether that be shooting a shot you really didn't think, it's like the amount of times I've greened a shot in all the different varieties just because I was like, in the moment I don't even care about what seems like boom, and I just throw it. Sometimes it lands. There you go. And that's the case here with Karasu. I think Karasu already is falling a little bit too deep into the Hugo sauce. He shouldn't just gamble on somebody else because of their talent. And I think obviously one of the main things that Itoshi Sei is going to learn, because obviously I don't think Itoshi is going to come into the narrative as a perfect character, so I can lay this out now. Call it now. The chapter, what chapter is this? Chapter 336? Yeah. Call it now, the 336 review. If Sei is going to learn something from Blue Lock, it's the idea that he should not simply, it's kind of the same idea of, like, don't just be number two, don't just become a kingmaker. You should have your own individuality still on top of that. To be willing to do the irrational for the sake or to counteract the logical. That is what Sei is going to learn. I think that's what Karasu is going to need to learn, even as he's just beginning to actualize himself. Let's see. Okay, so that's Rin. Pass it! Hiori! Not now, bro. Not now, Brody. Not yet. Like, but you know what though? That is the real question. Like, and this is something I may need to make a poll on this. I don't know. It really depends on how this chapter goes. I may make a poll. But like, does Isagi score before the end of this game? Like unless we're really gonna have him lose to Hugo, like at least. And the thing is, it is the idea of the individual narrative and the macro narrative, right? Where like technically, this game matters, but it don't matter. It's in that weird wibbly wobbly limbo spot. Like it does matter undeniably, but they technically can lose, and that means also Isagi can also lose on the individual level. So maybe Isagi goes this entire... Yo, that's crazy. Oh, well, it's not exact. But almost like he was grabbing the pen layer. But... Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah. Almost like he was grabbing the pen layer. But... Wait, no, what? Show up! There we go. Almost like he was grabbing the pen layer. But... It would be a crazy thing for Isagi to not score at all. Because that hasn't happened since Manshine. Right? Because he scored twice in Ubers. He scored twice in PXG. He scored in Nigeria. He should score here based on the pattern. It'd be a well over 100 chapter distance since he last didn't score in a major game. So it'd be interesting, but it'd be an interesting path to take Isagi down, you know? Humble him a lot. Or if not humble him a lot, just like have a lot of things put into perspective for him. Let's see. The idea came to me. The idea came to me once I put everything into being second best. Shoots, darn it! And that is interesting, specifically in the world of Saga. And even just it is strange to think about on like a general real life idea though. The idea of not necessarily suitable destiny, but the idea of optimizing yourself to be second best, or if not, just optimizing yourself to not be number one. In some cases, I think it is logical, right? Like I don't own technically I suppose that guy with a pencil and that guy that takes that, like they are a business. Like that guy Brad is technically a boy, but in terms of like my actual professional work, I'm not the leader. I don't run my own proper professional business. I'm a worker, right? And thusly I optimize myself best within that role to complete that role, right? So technically, even in the like professional world, there's those ideas in that existence that you only develop once you reach like a certain level of self-affirmation in a certain direction. Not just on the soccer field, obviously, for what Cross is currently going through, but just in general. And even then, like it can apply to friend groups, right? Like, I don't know about y'all, but I do have different friend groups. And my general base, like the base pencil that does exist, does not do it doesn't do the most like upwards or downward shifting. I do optimize it in a weird way, sometimes actively, sometimes passively. I do optimize myself for particular friend groups. Some topics don't get brought up in certain friend groups. Some topics do. Sometimes I act in certain ways, more relaxed, more free, more like, oh, we do have a dad friends group. Sometimes I am the dad friend. So like, it is always interesting seeing the idea of actualization and whether or not it's a good thing. The main question I do have, right, especially if they manage to succeed here, does this subjugation of ego, right, essentially putting the idea of raising oneself up to the top, putting that on a leash and rather settling intentionally deriving for second best, driving essentially to be the kingmaker, giving up fully on that idea, which I initially thought Hiori did, but then didn't really click with me that no, Hiori still does have that urge to score in him. Is that the best thing to do? Is it the most realistic thing to do? Is that the healthiest thing to do for one's ego and nature as a striker? Or just an individual in blue lock, forget being a striker. So let's see. Oh? The path to victory lies in self-sacrifice. Aim for my head. But once again, look at that. I love that infusion here. The only thing that makes this but he has the wings that. Oh, okay. Maybe he was about to score, but this image right here, I love seeing the different, like his ego, the crow hands, literally covering his arms and helping him claw into bats and this other guy. I didn't remember his name. Right? His name is Bat, but claw into these two and hold him down. And the idea that he's having Hiori aim for his head. What? I'm trusting you. Extraordinary. But see, and once again, it's interesting to see their perspectives on each other, right? Where Karasu sees himself as an ordinary guy. He sees that Hiori's exceptional. Hiori sees himself as an ordinary guy. And sees Karasu as exceptional. We recently got that established all the way back in the Ubers game, right? Where Hiori's like, man, Karasu, he's so big and tall and meaty and juicy and handsome, bro. Like, how can I get like him for real? Obviously, he didn't say all that. But it's BL. You know, I'm going to push BL because it's BL. But that aside, it is interesting to see these two work and view each other. But honestly, I think that once again is a key, a hint to what should be versus what they're currently doing right now. Though, I mean, like, it really is a question of who I don't know, though. It does seem to be Flow Eyes. It does seem to be Reflex. But I don't see Hiori with Flow Eyes or Reflex here. So, this is going to be interesting. I wonder if there's going to be a goal, if it's going to get blocked. So that's why he said, okay, that's slick. Okay, it's a goal. Okay, it's getting spicy. Okay. Yo, that's that. Now hold on. Wait a minute now. Things just got real spicy. Triple dip. Cause wait a minute. Here's the thing. This working. I mean that's the thing. Like, does this entirely? It's almost it's that idea of going too far that I mentioned with Isagi, right? That idea where Isagi was like fully subjugating himself to the nature or like his quote unquote purpose, right? Where he essentially turning yourself into a machine for goals, right? That technically wasn't the answer, even if in the context of like Manchai in particular, like it kind of was, because it allowed him to reach his specific objective at the time. But nobly his specific objective was still built on the individual idealism. There wasn't this idea of be for the team of the team. Like that was the main issue that Isagi had in the beginning, right? Where he's like, oh, it's the point where we started off the narrative, right? Where Isagi was like, oh, one for all for one. I should do anything for victory. I am for the team. The team is for I am. Like essentially losing oneself, sense of self, entirely for the sake of victory, entirely for the sake of goals. As literally the self-sacrifice, right? That Karasu points out here. The path to victory lies in self-sacrifice. Yes and no. Because obviously we have characters who have sacrificed a lot to at least work towards victory. But notably, seemingly enough, it is the greedy. It is those who decide and devour it all that have been the most successful. We've seen Rin, as recently as PXG, destroy himself for victory, at least attempt to, and fail. Right? We've seen characters like Bachira. Admittedly, he was going through it. But when did he win? When he was absolutely greedy. When he took everything for himself, he overwhelmed all Manchai, and he scored anyway. He finished that game off. Toya, similar case. Ultimately, the characters that are most successful are the ones that have that most innate hunger, that deep greed inside of them, that self-sacrifice or not, they're like, I'm going for it. That's kind of like the narrative Blue Lock has pushed. Heck, look at Noah, right? Strongest striker in the world, couldn't care about the rest of the world outside of what it could do to make he himself the individual greater and stronger. So, Karasu and, well, here's the thing, and it is truly Karasu in this moment, right? Karasu in particular, throwing himself down into the path of number 2 and sacrificing himself, you could argue it is a necessary evil. But I suppose the question is, will this end up backfiring? Will it spike Karasu's potential here in the moment, but then cap him way higher than he could go? Kind of like, what's a good example of this? It's like a stat boost in like any RPG, but Pokemon's coming to mind in particular, right? Where like you could argue Karasu in this moment by accepting himself as second best, and at least like this panel's amazing, bro. Like thumbnail material right here, but still, Karasu accepting himself as second best, right? Living in that ideal, diving into that dream, as it were, possibly the nightmare. It works in this moment, kind of like when you get a swords dance off in Pokemon, or Anger Point, the ability hit to get crit, and then you're at max. max special attack or specifically max attack for anchor point. Essentially, it is a solid stat boost in this moment. But I'm assuming there's going to be a scenario where Karasu, because he's the one who's laying down, quite literally crouching down, giving his dome up, it's like the Karasu's literally giving himself up, sacrificing himself, literally. I'm assuming that's going to end up backfiring, right? Because notably, at least seemingly, Block isn't a narrative that rewards those all too willing to give themselves up, even if it is for the means of victory. We see this, heck, with Nagi, though admittedly Nagi ended up coming back. Like, there has been mixed messaging about that narratively, right? Like, how effective is greed versus, like, how ineffective is... You do, like, Block, as in the grand scheme of things, is ultimately a narrative about, like, balance. And I think Karasu is going to have to find that balance. Though technically, in this first moment, it did work. Let's see. He lowered his head at the last second to create a tiny shot course? What? What? Who the heck said they couldn't make Colossos without Yoichi Isagi? Ah, look at... Where's the Yo! I'm getting 2 chapters back to back without a Charles emoji and he's on panel. Hallelujah. Yes, Ersky. But bam, tying it up. Japan but and when War couldn't block it, go. A very interesting detail though. Hold on, let me zoom in. Maybe no. It isn't that okay. Once again, I think as willing and as great as this was for Karasu and his evolution, he does have reflex, he does have the seeming flow eyes here. I want to put heavy emphasis on Hiori not being in reflex or having flow. Neither of those things. Like he has the fire around his eye, but like that's it. That's the most basic bare minimum stuff. He doesn't have either of the apexes of focus. This wasn't. I think in a way this is telling me, a person huffing copia, but this is telling me that something about this wasn't right. It wasn't supposed to be this way. At least in my heart of hearts, in my left big toe, that's what this is feeling like. To quote Toji from Hidden Inventory, something's off. Like I don't know. I feel in my something's going to be wrong with this. Let's say. But to be fair, and that is an ever-present question in life too. And hey, maybe I'm reading too deep into it, but I do think Blue Lock is going to end up tackling this. Sometimes, even if something's off, even if something feels right, if it works, doesn't that make it okay? It's oddly enough the utilitarian argument. Where like, well, technically, I got the most out of what I could do, even if I didn't like how I did it. And like, I don't know, I feel like everyone's had that moment in life where like you do something you don't want to do. Or you don't truly believe, if only for the fact that you know there's no other way to get something done. Or at least that's how you view it in that moment. And of course, I have moments like that where I look back and I'm like, well, I could have done this, that, and the third in a different way. But still, in that moment, that's all it felt like. The world was ever so small in that moment. I didn't think about the possibility of the future or the alternatives that were laid bare before me. Or if not laid bare, at least slightly hidden beneath the surface. So I'm interested to see how this will end up rippling out. I still think they're going to be friends. Though, admittedly, them tying France immediately. Once again, the game's probably been going on for what? Let's be generous and say 15, maybe 20 minutes? Kind of a little 20? Maybe 30? For them to be immediately tying France up, they are essentially right at the point where England was, right? Where it was presumably 1-1, and England ended, literally, the final goal was Loki. So we're in an interesting spot. I wonder if this is going to make Loki take the game more seriously, if he wasn't taking it seriously already. I wonder what this will do. Because clearly caught Charles off guard, caught Renoir off guard, caught all of France off guard. Let's take a look. Goal! With Yo Hiori and Tomito Karasu's trick shot, Blue Lock has tied the score. Well, once again, look at Karasu, man. He's like, yeah, I did it. But he's not, he's I don't know. Something's off. There's something about it. It doesn't, like, this doesn't feel like, maybe because usually we end the chapter off with a goal and then we go into the next chapter and then we have like the reactions to the goal, but now we're getting it in the same chapter. Maybe that's why something's off is screaming my head right now. Let's see. Blue Lock has tied the score. All right! Darn! Hiori and Karasu. Barchero, what is up with your face? Barchero, what are those eyes doing? Yo, why he look like Igor? Why he look like Igor with no nose, bro? Who is that? That's not Majiro, bro. That's Shirabaji, bro. Who is that? But let's see. Oh, but Isagi? Okay, so this is gonna be interesting. Let's see how Isagi reacts to this. Let's see. Alright. We caught up. We have a chance now. But what Karasu just did looked like he told see that's the thing I was thinking about, right? Like does that is that okay? Is that right? Like I don't know because like once again in real life and even in certain in sports there sometimes you do got to be the second man. Like a team sport won't function without a second man. A relay won't function without a second man. Like it doesn't matter. The strongest there is can be the strongest there is, but if there's not the rest of the team to support the strongest there is, it doesn't matter. So maybe Karasu's self-subjugation is right. But could it have been done differently? Could Karasu, when given back the ball by Hiori while their defensive line was disruptive, could Karasu have scored if he wasn't so focused on this new ideal that he's foisted upon himself? That's the question. What does it truly mean to dedicate yourself to something, especially when it isn't what you are, or even if it, because that's the thing, right? Technically, it is aligned with what Karasu is, what Karasu has viewed himself as, but like, just as in many ways that Karasu has been accurate, I feel like he's almost even wrong about his own potential. His ability to ascertain the weakness of others is not normal, and not in a bad way. And that's not normal. It's not normal as in like that is still an exceptional ability that he himself has developed that few others have. Karasu is an exception in many ways. Should he eternally subjugate himself to number 2 when he could still be better focusing the world to 1 or the road to 1? Let's see. Is that really okay? Doesn't that go? Yeah, see, that's what I was talking about. Doesn't that go against everything Blue Lock stands for? But you know what though? All right, I'm now. Funnily enough, despite I'm mad Hugo's be like I was right, but Hugo being here probably about to talk smack like, oh well, look at that. It is that thing I was talking about. I think literally last review, right? No matter what, Hugo's gonna claim he's right. Though technically, I think even this can be proof to why he's wrong. It is that hard idea where you're put in one of those. You're put in one of those scenarios where like no matter what you do, you kind of lose. It's like what's a good like concrete example? A question where no matter what, if you answer yes or no, you're still somehow in the wrong. It's have you ever been in a scenario where someone's asked your opinion on something and you knew in that moment that no matter what answer you give, positive or negative, it didn't matter, right? It was the setup to something continuous anyway. That's kind of the position that Hugo's put Isagi, and technically Blue Lock in, but specifically Isagi, right? He's the one who's been talking to. So let's see what Hugo has to say. See, even if it's not you, there's someone with the brains and talent to be second best. Not bad, Blue Lock. This is the destructive power of utter suitability. But like, once again, the big thing I always point to for Hugo probably being incorrect is that Charles exists. Even Loki doesn't see what Hugo sees. I think it is truly the idea of, as important, and notably, I even focus on this a lot in like my professional career, technically, and obviously still in the content creation sphere, but the idea that, yeah, you do have a role you fulfill, and you should fulfill that role and make sure it gets done, but don't be afraid or don't be scared to go beyond that, to explore beyond, even if you do have your suitable place in the world. Don't be afraid to evolve. It is in those little things where you do take that step beyond, where you find out, oh well, maybe something like this actually is viable. Maybe this is something I can do. The thing I always think about is content creation. I talk about this a whole bunch. This wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't be here right now if I decided to follow my more suitable destiny. But I didn't. And ultimately, that destructive power of irrationality, of unsuitability, that worked out for me in many ways. I get to have these conversations with y'all literally every day. And that's a pleasure I wouldn't trade for the world. So, I don't know. I still think Hugo's wrong, but let's see. Oh, one more thing. If you also start acting like second best up on the front line, Blue Lock could hold its own. But see, okay, there we go. That's why I know he's wrong. Because they're already holding their own. Even, but to be fair, they're holding their own with Karasu submitting himself to that ideal, right? But it's clear, I mean, unless we go with the idea that Loki is still Giga sandbagging, it is clear that Blue Lock is capable of holding its own against France right now, even with what it's doing on its own, without Isagi Yoichi submitting to those ideals. So it may be the ideal, and this is what ASMR has talked about in previous comments, the idea that maybe you can still have your individual who's focused on being irrational, if logical, like Isagi Yoichi, as long as you have someone else willing to fill that role. Because there is that requirement. Though, I'm interested to see how Ego feels about it. Once again, that's the idea of like, is this the right path in general in Ego's eyes? And of course, Ego isn't always correct. I mean, he's failed before, but I'm interested to see. Let's go. Mulan could hold his own against France. You hold the team's destiny in your hands, Yoichi Isagi. But you know, at the same time, no, he doesn't. He does and he doesn't, in the sense that Isagi can do the exact same thing he's done so far. That the whole reason that goal was scored. Isagi, by doing what Isagi did best, aka fiending for that goal, by being the egotist, he essentially facilitated the goal that Hiori and Karasu pulled off because France was so focused on Isagi. Two things can be true. It's kind of like Loki, right? Where Loki is, he draws so much aggro, but there's still a possibility Loki could score anyway, regardless of the aggro, because I can't say regardless, because irregardless negates the regardless, the last in regardless. But with it being the case, regardless, Loki is a threat to score, even if he's drawing so much aggro. Isagi Yoichi's in the same position. Sure, he'll struggle to score, and maybe in a position where no one will pass to him. But by doing what he's doing, he's actually better off at helping the team, especially with a person already willing to submit on the same team. But let's see. Who is this? Ignore him, Isagi. Oh wait, no, that's right. No, that's right. I see on the next page. But let's see. Ignore him, Isagi. Huh? Our destiny is devouring each other to be the best. Second best is so tepid. Yo, this is crazy. This is great. Being okay. Ooh, though, it's interesting to see his vein. Like, even Rin, but I like that, though. Even Rin doesn't like that he sees it, right? And that's that balance I was talking about earlier, right? Where Rin, in spite of being a genius, has time to learn tendencies. That boy can read a field, gosh darn it. And even then, he sees what Hugo's talking about. It's the idea of, like, man, I don't like what he's spitting, but he is still like, in this moment, technically, Hugo is still right. It's that weird balance, right? Where you gotta be like, they low key kind of cooking with gas, but I don't want to give it to it's silly in a way, but it is still very much the case where sometimes you know you can see a world where someone's cooking, and especially in the moment, you can't see another way around it. They're in that moment right now, and there we go. You literally see Isagi. Which way is right? And Rin, even if he's pushing Isagi towards the egotistical route, even he's still questioning it. You can see from the veins and anger he has in this, even though they just scored, right? Because Rin feels something's off, and Isagi is also living in something's off. Like there's that idea of there is a path to victory, but is this the right one? And it is honestly, it is that conflict between the two sides of Isagi, or the two possibilities of Isagi Yoichi, that will probably make him worse, right? Because a big point of Blue Lock, even just in general, you need to, not always, right? Heck, I always talk about how, even I don't have a fully solid sense of self, despite having a relatively strong sense of self. But you need to have a stable foundation to stand on. When you get into your nuances, it can get a lot more complicated, I'll readily admit that. Like, I think I have a relatively solid, but I still have my little things where I'm like, am I like this, or am I like that? Am I like this, or am I like that? I don't know sometimes. But for Isagi, who is already like on a tinker point in the fact that like being number one, that's a lot of pressure. I'm not sure I actually built for that. Top that off with this uncertainty, like is the way I'm operating in the world, is that actually optimal? Like should I bow down? Because he saw the results, right? He got to prove his theory with his own team. But I don't know. I don't think Isagi should, but he may try. And I think that'll be the big issue. But let's see. We did it, Ego-san! Karasu-kun and Hiori-kun managed to create a new attack pattern. We still have a shot. I was about to say, because Henri's glazing it, you know it's going to be bad. Let's see. No. Oh, okay. So you go straight up against it. I didn't expect this. I had no desire for this chemical reaction. And you know, that's that thing. So something is indeed off. Even I was like, huh? But that's the thing. It is, and you know, I'm not saying be stubborn. In fact, quite the opposite. I'm always a person who talks about like, the importance of hearing people out and getting new perspectives and just in fluctuating. Not necessarily fluctuating like your base core beliefs. I think you should have like a solid core foundation to who you are. I think that's very, very important. But at the same time, I am always stressing the importance of being willing to learn and expand your sense of self because, you know, you don't have the whole world in the palm of your hands. There's still a lot of unknowns that you could work with. But it is important to have that solid foundation. I think Ego is noticing what Isagi is probably going through, and probably even Blue Lock in general now that they're witnessing it. The idea of like, well, maybe Ego was right. Maybe we should give up on Ego. Maybe Ego isn't wrong, and they can't do that mid game. Maybe consider it after the game, but in this moment, this may be what fries them the most. Let's see. What should I believe in? What is happening in Blue Lock? Okay. And that's the end of the chapter. Hold on. A very W. And you know what? I think the thing I'm going to give this chapter the most W's for, right? And obviously, maybe on like a single through reread that isn't a live reaction list review, maybe it hits a little different. But I do want anyone who read the chapter in just one flat setting to tell me, did you guys feel what I felt? like going through it, noticing like little details like Hiori not being in flow or reflex, this like and the idea of the conflicts, even this reaction here, the reaction to the goal, and the thoughts of it, all the same chapter. Did anyone else feel that feeling? Like that unnerved, like the tingling on the back of your neck, like something's wrong here. Can't place your finger on it, but something's wrong. And it's that instability, that questioning of what is true, what is good, what is right within the world of Blue Lock, and specifically for Blue Lock as a team, and whether or not this success, if it's a good thing or if it's not. Let me know if you felt that, because that's what I if I'm giving the chapter massive glaze for, it's for that. Like, this is still a triumphant moment for Hiori and Karasu, right? Like, they've done the right thing. They've gotten a goal. They've tied the game up. They're cooking. But are they cooking the right way? Are they going to start a grease fire that would burn down all of Blue Lock because they're cooking a little too fast without thinking of what they're throwing in the pot? And will their cooking stifle the growth of Blue Lock, and Isagi Yuichi in particular, the heart of Blue Lock? I don't know. I think it will. And that's what interests me the most. So, if you made it all the way through this video, please do me a favor and leave what to do in the comment section down below. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that link to the notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, you can have a page down below. Use me for results. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Those perks include the live reactions, or this exam to review, ad reactions of all my videos, early ad free access to all my videos, and not just early ad free access to all my videos over here on the main channel, but also all the videos for the second channel that reaction link in the description down below, in the card in the upper right hand side. And on top of that, I do have a link. Oh wait, no. You also get your name listed at the end of every single video if you're a Patreon member, and if you're a $3 member, a $3 Patreon, how you get your name listed and read aloud at the end of every single video on both channels. But on top of that, I do a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below. We drop 5 videos to a short video, 20 videos to a long video, any views at all, any support is always greatly appreciated. On top of that, I do have my Twitch link down below. That got the controller. We stream every Friday at 8 p.m. EST. We have a wonderful time. We shuck, we jive, we have a good old time. We talk about literally anything and everything. And we're probably gonna talk about Blue Lock. So if you want to roll through, feel free to do. And I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Got the Pencil, writing off. Alright, lady, thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zera, J2MA, Buddha Ura, Yuki Ally, Grim, Ollie, The Boy, Corey Watson, Damon Brown, Dino, Hector Gonzalez, Tim Thomas, Kaving, RXN, Logan Guzman, Dead Meme, Keon Stewart, Donovan McIntosh, Hamza Idrisi, BNA DNA, Edwin Ingbignoba, Straw, Athenzi Shear, Antavius Mitchell, Superflame Zero, Weary Exile, Window Life, Alex Kenny, Todd, The Practical One, Landon Clapwick, Heath Nelson, CAET, Funny Dude, Jagoda, Plant Crone, Striker Man, Brandon Payne, Black Sage, Multi-Batman 2
Superman, Ramondo Furen, Zalims, Enzo, Union I, Metatron, Sheesh King, Joe Bean, Aswin Harry Presetia, Sleepin' John, JMD KD, The Young Family, Pastel Pandora, Sino King, NMA, Karina Hernandez, Mo City King, DKG, Andrine Bonnet, John Malcolm, Akolare Babatunde, ASD 1234, Jesse Clapp, and CCC. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our line art tier patrons, A+A, Dread Zoen, Karina Hernandez, Kevin Encarnacion, Lil Kodo, Midnight Lord 21, and Sean. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our Inc. tier members, King RTX, Shrimpo the 4th Shrimp 06, and Zom. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our digital art tier members, J Warrior, AZ Void, and Val Denison. Then I'd like to give a final thank you to our colored art tier patrons, Walkie Munoz, and A Ernesto902 at gmail.com.